Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. This is another edition of the Q&A with the IBFP. And so we're just going to dig right into it and go through your comments, your questions, and concerns. So let's just break it down. The first question comes from Maldonado S. Why do the LDBC hate on DAZN so much, considering the content you get for the price? It's a steal. It's not like they can afford pay-per-view anyway, because we know most of them scream how much they support Wilder, yet his big pay-per-view barely did 300,000 buys, most of which came from Fury's fame. And I agree with you 110%, Maldonado. And you got to understand that, the reason why the LDBC hate on DAZN so much, because it's tied to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing, because it's tied to Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotion. See, these guys are so worried about promotional companies that they can't focus on the actual boxers in the fight. So these guys are PBC fanboys. These guys blindly support Al Heyman, and I don't know why they blindly support Al Heyman. Maybe it's a racial issue, maybe it's something deeper. I don't know, but I know that they blindly support Al Heyman and all of their fighters, no matter who they are, how they are, and they pump and hype them all up. This is what they do. I'm a fan of boxing as a whole. I like the PBC, I like Golden Boy, I like ESPN, I like Top Rank, I like Matchroom, I like it all. And so, I don't like to discern between anything, because I like all of them. But it's clear that the PBC also shows a bias towards working with other promotional companies and holding their fighters back. Now, as far as DAZN is offering a great deal, great price, tons of actual boxing. You're getting 100 fights a year for less than $100 a year. Why would you not take that deal? It's idiotic to even complain or be upset about it. Yet you have an Adrian Broner versus Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view, Wilder versus Fury pay-per-view, and then a Mikey versus Spence pay-per-view. So you have 3 pay-per-views back to back to back. So you get 3 fights, 3 of their best fights, and yet that's almost triple the price of DAZN. With DAZN, you get Anthony Joshua, Canelo Alvarez, Danny Jacobs, Demetrius Andre, and these guys are fighting multiple times a year, and you're still getting 100 fights for less than $100. I don't understand why anybody would be that way. The next comment comes from Junior Australia. What's up, Junior? If Wilder doesn't knock out Vasyl in 7 rounds, will he be exposed? Well, Junior, I would say that, but the problem with that is Wilder's already been exposed by Tyson Fury. Wilder's already been exposed so many times, nothing will surprise me. And I think that Vasyl, if he lands flush, he could hurt Wilder and maybe even put him out. I think Wilder should win. He has a big right hand. I wouldn't bet against him winning, because Vasyl is slow. He's a little bit flat-footed. And Vasyl, I don't think he has the best defense, so I think it's going to be a problem and a struggle for Vasyl to be able to land. I think to survive the rounds without getting caught. I think Brazil's best option at this point is to go ahead and try to get Wilder out of there early. And when I'm talking about early, I'm talking about the first 3 rounds. I think he needs to go for broke. Don't try to box or prolong the fight, because the longer the fight goes, the better the chance Wilder's going to find you with that right hand. You need to get him off balance within the first 5 rounds, because Wilder typically figures out his opponent within about round 4 or 5, and figures out to the extent of being able to find the distance and range to land that right hand. While he's off balance in the first 3 rounds, I think Vasyl needs to rush him and try to get him out of there. That would be my advice. That would be my plan if I was Virgil Hunter. The next one comes from Carlos Cuevas, and he says, this just in, that ESPN list is fraudulent. It gets easily debunked by going to Google Trends. Wilder is not the most searched. It's Canelo and Jacobs, with a worldwide search score of 5 to Wilder's 3. And I agree with you 100% on that. But you have to understand that the biased media are trying to promote a narrative, trying to turn Deontay Wilder into a star. Because if Deontay Wilder was the most searched, if Deontay Wilder was the most popular, then why was his pay-per-view a flop? See, now you all of a sudden you hear guys doing 300,000 or 400,000 on pay-per-view, and they're saying, look, those are great pay-per-view numbers. No, pay-per-view is dead. And let me explain to you why. Because Canelo Alvarez is the biggest pay-per-view star in North America, and he was doing upwards of 850,000, over 1 million, and at 1 million. So if he's doing this and these guys aren't even doing half, what does that tell you? Pay-per-view is not the same. And so you have to be honest and unbiased. So if Wilder can't even do half of what Canelo did, then what are you talking about? It seems they're trying to make Deontay Wilder into a star by putting out false narratives, false media, and false statistics. But that's not surprising. The next one comes from Swiss Kids. 316, why do these fanboys act like Spence beating Little Mikey makes him so great all of a sudden when he was supposed to win that fight by knockout, actually? But when Triple G fought Brook and stopped him, they were all screaming he got exposed and said the fight didn't mean anything for his career. It was just a payday. And also the same for Canelo when he fought Khan. People kept saying that fight should have never happened and that Canelo was supposed to knock out Khan, so he didn't get any credit for it. And I agree 100%. These are the exact same scenarios. And you can add in Rigo versus Loma. And these are fights where they don't really give any of these guys credit. And I can respect it. Don't give these guys credit. They don't deserve credit. They were massive, favorites. And these guys were all smaller guys. The same goes for Errol Spence. I hold him to the same standards that I hold everybody else to. And it's not hate. It's not anything like that. I like Errol Spence. He's a very entertaining fighter. But beating Mikey Garcia was something he was supposed to do. Regardless if I picked Mikey to win or not, Errol Spence Jr. had the size advantage, had all the physical advantage such as reach and height and weight. He was a natural welterweight to Mikey, so this was going to be an uphill battle. That's why I called it a 50-50 fight, because Errol Spence Jr. had all the natural attributes to win the fight. There's no way that he should have even lost this fight. There was no way that, that Mikey Garcia should have even went the distance. Errol Spence Jr. was exposed to a certain degree, but the fanboys do not want to accept it for what it is. But don't worry, Errol Spence will lose very soon. Mark my words. If you're going 12 rounds with the guy moving up from 135 pounds, what's going to happen when you meet the wrong guy your size? Errol Spence Jr. has never boxed that way against a guy that was his size, but he's boxed that way against much smaller competition in Mikey Garcia. Why is that? Why have we never seen this before? Because what happens when Errol Spence Jr. tries to box someone just as big as he is? He's going to get countered. He's going to get abused. And what happens is all those physical advantages that he has, he will no longer hold over a natural welterweight that he holds over a guy naturally from 135. So if you're going to do that, Errol Spence Jr. is going to try to bulldoze his opponent. So if he fights Sean Porter, or Terrence Crawford, he's not going to try to box these guys. He's going to try to bulldoze these guys. That will be the game plan for those guys. With Mikey, he felt like he was so much bigger than him. It would be a better game plan to box him than bulldoze him, because if he would have tried to bulldoze, he would have got caught a lot coming in. But that's just styles make fights. Let's keep going. Raul Ramirez 17 says, who do you want to see Canelo Alvarez fight next should he get past Daniel Jacobs? I would love for Canelo Alvarez to fight a Demetrius Andre or Jamal Charlo. There's been so much hype about Jamal Charlo lately that I just want to see that score settled and ended and have Canelo Alvarez fight Jamal Charlo in Azteca Stadium in Mexico. I think that would be phenomenal, and I think it would be one of the most viewed and phenomenal fights that we've ever seen, and I think Canelo Alvarez would stop him in that fight as well. Also, Demetrius Andre would be a great fight for another unification for Canelo Alvarez. Ken Holmes says, rank the top 5 at 168. Now, the top 5 at 168, I won't rank the top 5, but I rank my top 2 at 168. I rank Callum Smith. I think Callum Smith is an elite level fighter, a top fighter, and I rank also, I'll add to that list Caleb Plant, Anthony Durrell. I'll add that. I'll put David Benavidez. And I'll add these guys. And you can even add Canelo Alvarez in there if you want to see it that way as well. So those would be my top fighters at 168. The next question is, where do you have Mikey on the pound for pound list with his loss, and where do you have Spence with his win? Interesting question. Now, the way that I'm going to break that down is this. As far as Mikey Garcia, he's dropped dramatically in the pound-for-pound ranking. I think he's in anywhere between 8, 9, and 10 in pound-for-pound status for me. And it's not, it's not just because the Errol Spence Jr. fight, but it's because how he lost the fight. Mikey Garcia is known for adjustments in ring. Mikey Garcia is known for having a plan A, B, and C. And in this fight, there were no significant adjustments made. There was no plans A, B, and C. And so because of those reasons, it's not that he lost, it's about how he lost. And so because that's how he lost, because he wasn't making adjustments, because there was no attempts at any other game plan, that's why I have to drop Mikey Garcia in the pound for pound list, aside from him just losing the fight. Errol Spence Jr., I still don't believe he's a pound-for-pound fighter. I don't think Mikey Garcia would make him a pound-for-pound fighter because he's naturally 2 divisions smaller than Errol Spence Jr. So what I would look at Errol Spence Jr. is I wouldn't rank him as a pound-for-pound fighter, honestly. But if you did, since it's a subjective list, I'd be okay with you ranking Errol Spence Jr. at 9 or 10, right at the bottom of the pound for pound list. And if he beat a guy like Sean Porter, unifies the belt, a guy in his prime, a pure welterweight, then I'll give him all the credit in the world. And then at that point, he can elevate on the list. But at this point, beating Mikey Garcia is not enough to be elevated to the pound for pound status. Beating a Kell Brook coming off a knockout loss is not enough to be elevated to a pound for pound status. I just don't believe that Errol Spence Jr. deserves a pound for pound ranking at this point. But that's just my opinion. But if you got him at 9 or 10 on your list, I can totally respect that. And that question was from One Fly Boy. The next question comes from Hey Mama. Who you got this April in the rematch, Rungvisai or Estrada? I think I'm going to lean towards Rungvisai. The next one comes from Eddie Manny. Spence should pick on someone his own size. I think so as well. I think Errol Spence Jr. should be fighting, more natural welterweights and stop trying to fight guys like Manny Pacquiao out of his prime. We want to see Errol Spence fight the best. He's claiming he's the best. Why don't you fight the best? And, we want to see him all fight Terrence Crawford, call out Terrence Crawford, make that fight happen at all costs. And I feel like Errol Spence Jr. is just not pushing that fight. The next question comes from Anthony Ramirez. Mikey versus Lomachenko 135, good or bad? I think it's a fantastic fight. I would love to see it. I think it's a lot closer this time around because of Mikey Garcia's loss, but I still slightly favor Mikey Garcia. But I think that Mikey Garcia can't face Vasyl Lomachenko next, because if he does, I don't think he would win. I think Mikey Garcia must take a tune-up first, get his feet back under him, get his confidence back going, get his mind and state of mind and body right and acclimated to the weight. And then at that point, Mikey Garcia can face a Vasyl Lomachenko if he so desires to do so. I personally think he shouldn't go down to 135. I think he should go to 140 and fight the Josh Taylors, the Regis Prograis, the Maurice Hooker, the Alex Saucedos. I think he should face those guys at 140 pounds. I think that's a better division for him, where he's not losing as much weight, but he can still compete with the same guys. But this wraps up part 1 of the Q&A with the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.